All right, wow, what a night of tennis, and how great for Brazilian tennis and Spanish tennis. Miami fans loved having you guys here tonight. How special?
Well, it was really special, you know, playing with Joao. I haven't never played, you know, against him. So this was the first time in this beautiful scenario. You know, never played, you know, in a baseball stadium before. So it was really special coming back to Miami in front of these amazing people that they bring always a great energy. It's always a great opportunity and a special moment.
Carlos Alcaraz just announced something wild. Fresh off splitting with Juan Carlos Ferrero, the guy who helped him win 4 Grand Slams, Carlos is booking exhibition matches like he's planning a world tour. The latest, a rematch against Joao Fonseca in Brazil. December 2026. Already confirmed. While everyone's still processing the coaching breakup, Alcaraz is out here scheduling revenge matches a year in advance. Quick question before we break this down. Does it seem weird to anyone else that Carlos is announcing exhibitions in Brazil while his coaching situation is still a mess? Let me know in the comments because this timeline is absolutely bonkers.
Carlos Alcaraz and coach Juan Carlos Ferrero are over, ending a highly productive partnership that spanned 7 years. World number 1 Carlos Alcaraz announced the split on Instagram, saying it is very difficult to write this post. After more than 7 years together, Juan Key and I have decided to end our time together as coach and player.
All right, let's unpack this because the timing here is almost too perfect to ignore. Carlos Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero just announced their split. The tennis world is still reeling from that news, trying to figure out what it means for Carlos's career. And before anyone can even process it, Carlos drops another announcement. He's playing Joao Fonseca again, in Sao Paulo, at the Allianz Parque football stadium, December 12th, 2026. Yes, you heard that right, December 2026. We're not even done with 2025 yet, and Carlos is already booking exhibition matches for next year. Most players can't commit to what they're eating for dinner tomorrow, but Carlos just locked in a stadium event in Brazil over a year from now. The confidence is either admirable or completely insane, depending on how you look at it.
Eu sou o Lucas Knaip e vamos falar sobre João Fonseca e Carlos Alcaraz, porque eles vão se enfrentar de novo ano que vem, no dia 12 de dezembro de 2026, né? Estou falando de a revanche, né? Sendo que, assim, tem um ano de tênis inteiro e que eles ainda podem enfrentar um contra o outro, né? Em nível ATP, e aí é um jogo completamente sério. Mas garantida essa exibição no Allianz Parque, ou seja, vai ser no Brasil, então se você se adiantar...
The match is being sponsored by Itaú, which is a massive South American banking giant, so clearly there's serious money behind this. And the rematch angle is what makes it interesting. Carlos and Joao already played an exhibition in Miami recently, and apparently that went well enough that someone decided we needed round 2. Except this time, it's in Brazil, Joao's home country, in front of what will undoubtedly be a completely insane crowd that's going to make Carlos feel like the villain in a wrestling match.
Joao, you took the #1 player of the world right to the very end. You have to be proud of the way you played tonight.
Yeah, I almost got it, guys. It's tough. He has a little bit of skill, and the guy's good. The guy is really good. So it's a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure playing against Carlos and the mixed double as well. So yeah, it's just a pleasure being here, and very thankfully for Carlos. And congratulations.
Let's talk about Joao Fonseca for a second, because this kid is the real deal. He's 18 years old, Brazilian, currently ranked around 145 in the world, and he's been tearing through the junior and challenger circuits like someone who's destined for the top 10. The hype around him is massive, especially in Brazil, where they're treating him like the next big thing. And honestly, they might be right. Joao won the next-gen ATP Finals this year, which is basically the tournament where future stars go to prove they belong. He beat everyone in his path and looked dominant doing it. His game is aggressive, athletic, and he's got that young player fearlessness where he just goes for shots without overthinking. In other words, he's exactly the kind of player who could give Carlos problems if he catches him on the right day. The Miami exhibition between these two already happened, and while we don't have detailed results because exhibitions don't always get fully reported, the fact that they're running it back suggests it was entertaining enough to justify a sequel. But here's the thing about exhibition matches. They're fun. They're entertaining. They make a ton of money, but they're not real tennis. Not in the way that matters for rankings and legacy. Carlos Alcaraz is 21 years old and already has 4 Grand Slam titles. He's won the US Open, Wimbledon twice, and the French Open. He's been ranked #1 in the world. He's beaten Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and pretty much everyone else worth beating. His career is already Hall of Fame worthy, and he's barely old enough to rent a car in the United States. So why is he spending so much time and energy on exhibition matches? The obvious answer is money. These events pay absurdly well, and Carlos can make more in one night playing an exhibition than he would winning some ATP 250 tournaments. The sponsors love it, the fans love it, and Carlos gets to play in front of massive crowds without the pressure of rankings or records on the line. But there's something else going on here, and it ties directly into the coaching split with Juan Carlos Ferrero. Because when you look at Carlos's schedule and priorities over the past year, there's been a noticeable shift. More exhibitions, more promotional events, more time spent on things that aren't directly related to winning Grand Slams. And some people in the tennis world have started questioning whether that's a good thing. Juan Carlos Ferrero was the stabilizing force in Carlos's career. He's the one who turned a talented kid from Murcia into a Grand Slam champion. He's the one who managed Carlos's schedule, kept him focused, and made sure he was peaking at the right times. And now he's gone, replaced by Samuel Lopez, who was already part of the team but is now stepping into the lead coaching role. The official reason for the split? Nobody really knows. Carlos and Ferrero both issued statements that were extremely vague and polite, lots of thank yous and mutual respect and all that corporate PR language that doesn't actually tell you anything. But reading between the lines, it seems like there was a disagreement about direction, about priorities, about what Carlos should be focusing on at this stage of his career. Ferrero is old school. He's from the generation where you show up, do the work, win tournaments, and everything else is secondary. Lopez might be more open to the modern approach where players build brands, maximize earnings, and treat tennis as part of a larger business strategy. We don't know for sure, but the timing of this exhibition announcement right after the coaching split feels significant. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Carlos Alcaraz might be prioritizing money and entertainment over pure tennis dominance. And honestly, that's his right. He's 21 years old, already accomplished more than most players do in their entire careers, and he's seeing opportunities to cash in while he's young and marketable. Why wouldn't he take them? But there's a cost to that approach. Every exhibition match is time and energy that's not going into training, recovery, or preparation for the tournaments that actually matter. Every sponsor obligation is a distraction from the singular focus required to stay at the top of men's tennis. And when you're competing against guys like Jannik Sinner and Novak Djokovic, who are absolutely obsessed with winning, those distractions add up. Jannik Sinner won 2 Grand Slams this year and finished as the year-end #1. He did that by being completely locked in, showing up to every tournament ready to destroy people, and not getting sidetracked by anything that didn't directly contribute to winning. That's the kind of focus and discipline that Carlos had when Ferrero was coaching him. Whether he maintains that with Lopez remains to be seen. The Fonseca rematch in Brazil is happening in December 2026, which means it's scheduled right at the end of next season. That's actually smart timing because it doesn't interfere with the ATP calendar. The season ends in November with the ATP Finals, and then players get a break before the next season starts in January. So Carlos isn't missing tournaments to play this exhibition, but it does raise questions about his off-season priorities. Most top players use the off-season to rest, train, and prepare for the next year. They work on weaknesses in their game, build up their fitness, and mentally recharge for another grueling season. Carlos is apparently using his off-season to play stadium exhibitions in Brazil against teenage prodigies. Again, that's his choice, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. But it's a different approach than what the all-time greats typically did. The other interesting angle here is what this means for Joao Fonseca. Playing against Carlos Alcaraz in front of a home crowd in Brazil is an incredible opportunity for him. Win or lose, he's going to get massive exposure, probably make good money, and build his profile on a global stage. If he actually manages to beat Carlos, even in an exhibition, the hype around him will explode. And that's the risk Carlos is taking by scheduling these matches. Exhibition or not, people remember the results. If Joao beats him, especially in Brazil with thousands of fans going absolutely insane, that becomes a storyline. It becomes content. It becomes ammunition for people who want to criticize Carlos for not taking his career seriously enough. Roger Federer played exhibitions all the time later in his career, but that was after he'd already won 20 Grand Slams and had nothing left to prove. Carlos is 21 with 4 slams. He's not in the legacy protection phase yet. He's supposed to be in the absolute prime of his career, hungry to win everything in sight. Instead, he's announcing exhibition rematches in Brazil, while his coaching situation is in flux. The comparison to Bjorn Borg is already starting to pop up in tennis circles. Borg retired at 26 years old after winning 11 Grand Slams because he was burned out and wanted to do other things with his life. There's legitimate concern among some tennis analysts that Carlos might follow a similar path. Not because he's burned out necessarily, but because he's got so many interests and opportunities outside of pure competitive tennis that he might not feel the need to grind until he's 35. And honestly, that would be a shame. Carlos has the talent to win 15 or 20 Grand Slams if he stays healthy and focused. He's got the game to dominate this era, but talent alone doesn't get you there. You need discipline, focus, and an obsessive commitment to being the best. Those are the things Ferrero provided. Whether Lopez can provide them too is the big question. The fact that Carlos is already planning his 2026 exhibition calendar suggests he's thinking about tennis as a business and entertainment venture as much as a competitive sport. And again, there's nothing wrong with that from a financial standpoint. He's going to make tens of millions of dollars playing these exhibitions, and that money is guaranteed regardless of whether he wins or loses. But Grand Slams aren't guaranteed. Staying number 1 isn't guaranteed. Beating Sinner and Djokovic and whoever else emerges as top competition isn't guaranteed. Those things require sacrifices and priorities that might not align with playing stadium shows in Brazil against up-and-coming teenagers. The tennis world is watching Carlos's next moves very carefully. The coaching change with Ferrero was shocking because everything seemed to be working perfectly. 4 Grand Slams in 3 years, multiple number 1 rankings, wins over everyone. Why change something that's clearly functioning? The only logical explanation is that Carlos wanted to change direction, and Ferrero wasn't on board with that direction. Samuel Lopez is now in charge, and we'll see what kind of coach he is. We'll see if he can maintain the same level of discipline and focus that Ferrero brought. We'll see if Carlos continues to improve technically and tactically, or if his game stagnates while he's busy playing exhibitions and building his brand. The Brazil match against Fonseca is going to be a spectacle. The Allianz Parque is a football stadium that holds over 40,000 people, and it's going to be packed with Brazilian fans losing their minds for their young star. Carlos is walking into enemy territory, playing a match that doesn't count for anything official, against a player who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. If Carlos wins easily, people will say it was just an exhibition and it doesn't mean anything. If Joao pushes him or actually wins, people will question whether Carlos is still operating at the elite level required to stay at the top of men's tennis. It's a no-win situation from a perception standpoint, which makes you wonder why Carlos is doing it in the first place. The answer, of course, is money, and exposure, and building relationships with South American sponsors, and growing his global brand. All of which are smart business decisions that will benefit him long after his playing career is over. But in the short term, while he's still supposed to be in his absolute prime, these distractions could cost him Grand Slams. And that's the trade-off Carlos is making. More money and entertainment now, potentially fewer championships in the long run. Whether that trade-off is worth it depends entirely on what Carlos values and what kind of legacy he wants to leave. If he wants to be remembered as the guy who maximized his earnings and had fun playing tennis all over the world, he's on the right track. If he wants to be remembered as one of the greatest players of all time with 15+ Grand Slams, he might need to reconsider his priorities. The coaching split with Ferrero adds another layer of uncertainty to all of this. Because Ferrero clearly understood how to get the best out of Carlos in the moments that mattered most. Lopez might be great too, but he's unproven as a lead coach. And replacing someone who's been essential to your success is always a massive risk, especially when there's no obvious reason for the change. So Carlos is heading into 2025 with a new coach, a packed exhibition schedule, and questions about his priorities. The talent is still there, the potential is still there. But whether he can maintain the focus and discipline required to keep winning Grand Slams while also playing stadium shows in Brazil remains to be seen. Carlos Alcaraz just announced an exhibition in Brazil while his coaching situation is still a mess. The talent's undeniable, but priorities matter. And right now, his schedule looks more like a world tour than a championship campaign. Whether that's smart business or a career mistake, time will tell. If you want more tennis analysis that doesn't sugarcoat reality, hit like and subscribe. Let's see how this plays out.